Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today is yet another special video. I'm doing another collab. I've been doing a lot of those lately, haven't I? Well, for this collab, me and 5 other customizers decided to make a rainbow for Pride. As you can see, I picked yellow. But for the other colors, we have Shelby KG Dolls for red, Hedgie Doll for orange, Stitchwick for green, Yo Snap for blue, and Magic Cat Dolls for purple. Thank you, Yo Snap, for hosting this collab. For this collab, I decided I wanted to make a doll based off of my favorite queer clown, Queery. I love her looks, and she's so cute. For this doll, I decided to use the doll parts that I didn't use from my last video. Unfortunately, I got a little overzealous, and I forgot to make the intro for this video before I started customizing her. So I don't have any dramatic reveal of what she looked like. Just know that she had no face. So, Big Me, roll the tape! So for her outfit, I decided to use many different patterns. I did use these 4, but I also used one more pattern by Delightful and literally every yellow fabric I could find in my fabric hoard. So to start, I want to make her this little corset. We just need the 2 corset pieces, and we're going to fussy cut out the exact piece I want, because I feel like this piece right here will make the best center. So we're going to line that up perfectly, and with some movie magic, we're going to cut it out. Once that's cut out, we are going to slide it off camera and then slide it back on camera because editing is a nightmare and I didn't plan properly for this part. And once we do our lovely slide back and forth, we are going to stitch together the inner seams. So those are the side seams. Now I actually didn't record any of the rest of it, so next we're going to actually hop onto her pants. For her pants, I am going to be making the gazpacho pants? That's not the word I want. I don't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but they are a pattern by DG Requiem. And once we get them cut out, we are going to start assembling them. Now I am going to be gluing down this inner seam. Now it's kind of an odd seam to glue down because it does curve, but that's the reason we want to glue it down, because the way it curves makes it easier to stitch later on. Now once we are done gluing it down, we are going to stitch the front piece to the back pieces. We are only going to stitch the sides and not the crotch or the back, because we are actually going to do another step. We are going to paint it. Now once we have them all nice and flatly ironed, we're actually going to take our see-through ruler, I think. I don't remember what this item is called. I think it's a quilting ruler. But we're going to take it and we're going to take our heat erasable pen. I personally use heat erasable pens by Freon? Honestly, I don't remember what they're called. It's currently 2 in the morning, and I really should have done this video earlier, but we are going to sketch out the lines, and then we are going to kind of make them taper towards the center at the top. That way that when we paint it and we assemble it, the lines will kind of look more natural. Now, painting this actually took a really long time, and I'm actually leaving it in for you for this whole one. It's actually currently at quadruple speed. So when you are painting lines, definitely take your time. Now I added an extra one that I didn't end up using on the far right of the pants that you can see. We didn't end up using it because it would have been caught in the seam and it just wouldn't have looked right. And once they're all painted, we do have to set them aside to dry for at least an hour. And now it's time to move on to her jacket. I did cut it out of the same yellow that I used for the pants, so they'll match and kind of look like a pantsuit. Now, this pattern is also by DG Requiem. It is just the regular jacket. I did use the 95% version of the pattern. So we are going to mark the dart placement, and we are using our, yes, Faxion? Why did I throw it? I don't know. Once we stitch those in, we are going to actually stitch in the back of this piece. Once the back has been sewn, it is time to mark the placements for the next white lines. Now, instead of using our quilting ruler, I am going to be freehanding these shapes. The reason I'm freehanding them is this piece is such an organic shape. It's a lot easier to just kind of guess where the line should be instead of accurately measuring, because then it won't line up properly with where the seams and the curves are on the piece. Now, I don't think I mentioned it. The reason we're using a heat erasable marker instead of any other type of actual sewing or quilting marker is because while water soluble markers and other things are great for real sized projects, when it comes to doll projects, you can't really just throw the garment in the washing machine. I think it would just fall apart. So I use the heat erasable markers because when you iron over them, they just disappear and it's like magic. Now, once we have the lines in, we are going to paint it just like before. Now, as a side note, I want to go over this clown that I'm doing. So she is a street performer that performs in the city that I live in. She's absolutely wonderful. She makes the cutest makeup looks and her clothes are amazing. She usually performs at a bar in downtown. I've seen her there several times and I've just always been obsessed, for lack of a better description, with her looks and how her personality, the way she mimes. She's just a really fun clown. And when I found out that we were doing Pride Month as a collab, I wanted to do an actual LGBT person and not just a character. And so I reached out to her and I asked her if she would be interested in me making a doll of her, and she was ecstatic about it. And I'm so glad I ended up making it because it looks just like her in the end. And honestly, I think it's probably one of my favorite dolls that I've made in a very long time. But I digress. So for painting this, we are actually using white acrylic paint. You can use fabric paint if you want, but on a doll scale, the fabric paint versus acrylic paint kind of debate doesn't really matter because fabric paint is just slightly stretchier than acrylic paint, and honestly these clothes aren't going to need a stretch. Now once we are done painting, we are actually going to make her stockings. Now I am making these really long stockings also from DG Requiem, and I'm using this kind of orangey gold color. I know my color was yellow, but I needed something slight to break up all of the yellow, and I thought these orange tights would be really, really cute. Now, I didn't actually film making them, just taking the pins out, because this is such riveting content. So, as I said, I did use a delightful pattern to make the shirt. Now, it is a white shirt, so it's really hard to film, so I did film cutting it out, and that was about it. The only difference is instead of using her regular sleeve, I actually used a pattern from DG Requiem to make puffy bell sleeves. I know I cut out the regular one here, but I changed my mind after cutting it out. So now that I have these pieces, you can see the bell sleeves over there. We are going to take them and we're going to assemble them. And this is what the shirt ended up looking like. I added a little cuff to the end to kind of make them puff sleeves. So while I do strive to make all of my doll clothes removable, I did decide that since I will never ever change this doll's clothes, I'm going to just stitch her in them because it's going to make my life easier and I don't have to make tiny closures, and it's not like I'm going to take her clothes off anyway because I don't want to make another look because it turned out so cute. So to stitch them together, I'm just kind of using a loose whip stitch in a white, off-white thread. It's off-white, yeah. So once you get to the end, knot it off, trim the excess, and you have a cute little shirt that is now permanently stuck to your doll. So I didn't really like how the shirt was actually fitting on her, so I'm actually using the leftover thread to kind of knot it underneath her crotch to kind of pull down the shirt and make it fit better up top, which actually worked really well and it looked really cute in the end. Now we're going to add her lovely orangey yellow stockings. These are made out of a type of stretch fabric, so they actually slide on really well, and with the pants they'll actually stay up without any closure needed at the top. And next is the pants. So I actually love these pants. It actually turns out somehow that Queery actually has a pair of pants that are the exact same color and look of these pants, and I was so shocked because I just made this look up on the fly. I didn't look at any of her looks to kind of plan out this look. mainly because I didn't know she had any yellow clothes. So I guess it was just meant to be. So for the corset, I'm doing kind of the same thing of stitching it in, but the difference is I'm actually using a ladder stitch instead of a whip stitch, and that way it'll actually hold it together. And when you pull it, it does this nice thing where it just kind of pulls itself together. And that's what it looks like. Now I do need to put her arms back on, but first we are going to add her little jacket. Now the collar, I actually made several different attempts of it and ended up not filming the one that I used in the end, but I used the guidelines on the actual pattern to make the actual lines on her jacket collar. And once she has her little jacket on, we are going to put her hands back in. Now, the sleeves weren't as puffy and magical as I wanted them to be, so I actually stitched the sleeves closed on her hands. So not even her arms are removable at this point. She is one solid doll. To do that, I took my thread, I knotted it at the base, and I kind of wrapped it around a few times to make it look as puffy as possible and as gathered as possible. I just couldn't get it to gather right on my machine, so this was the next best thing. So for the final part of her outfit, I do need to make her shoes. To make them, I'm not sure what base this is, I just pulled them out of my stock box, but I painted them white, gave them bright yellow laces, and I ended up painting the heel that really lovely dark ochre yellow kind of color that's on my palette. And also somehow I found a palette, because later you're going to see me not using said palette. I am going to just be pulling the paint out of the tubes, like the heathen that I am. Now with some movie magic, we're just going to duplicate the shoe, and we're all done here. So let's put them on the doll, and her outfit is 100% complete. I think it turned out super cute, and I absolutely love it. Also, shockingly, somehow, Queery, the clown that I'm making, actually has almost this exact outfit. I was not planning that, I just kind of made it. So after we're done with her outfit, it is time to give her hair. Go ahead and take whatever medium you want to use. I'm using yarn for her. Measure out how long you'd like it to be, and cut it down to size. Now always double the length that you're going to use, because you're going to fold it over, loop it over your finger, and then plug it into your head. So you're going to reduce half of the length of this yarn. Now to take apart yarn, I actually like to slightly twist it at the top and pull each strand out from the top one by one. It reduces how much it tangles, and it makes it a lot easier to process. Now with some movie magic, we're just going to make a whole pile of single strands. Now to get started, we are actually going to root around the entire edge of her hair and down the center. I'm going to give her pigtails, so we actually want to be sparse in the middle parts, because yarn is really fluffy, and it'll end up making it really hard to style later. So as I said earlier, you take the yarn, loop it over your finger, hook it with your reroot tool. I'm using an Excel blade handle with a cut-off needle to catch the yarn. Now, the other nice thing about yarn is, since it's so thick and fluffy, you actually don't have to glue it into the head like you do with most other synthetic fibers. And this is what her hair ended up looking like. It was so cute, but now we gotta mask it off in preparation for making her face. To mask it, I'm just using an old scrap of cloth and some pins. Now, as everyone knows, clowns always have white faces. And thankfully, I actually found the perfect doll for this, because she actually had a mark on her face, hence why I didn't use her in the last video. But since I'm covering her completely in white paint, she's perfect. So I'm using my airbrush with a 75% paint to 25% water. And then once that's all done and dry, you're going to take her outside, spray her down with Mr. Super Clear, and start with the actual sketching of her face. Now, when you are working on a painted surface, honestly, you can't use colored pencils too far, because it's going to eventually just scratch the paint off. So I'm doing a very light sketch of her face in gray. That way, if I mess up, I can wipe it off really easily. And then once I am done with that, I'm going to do another light layer of colors and then move on to acrylic paints at the end. So I'm kind of basing this look after a look that I saw her do a while ago. It's one of the reels that is on her Instagram, so if you go check it out, you'll find it. It's actually red instead of yellow, and she's looking into a mirror. It's great, and I love it. And it has these little, like, crossed teardrops and pointy eyebrows, and it's very mime-like, but also very fun and super gay because she has a tiny mustache. Now, once the sketch is done, we are going to copy it onto the other side. Now, I got a little overzealous, saw my red pencil, and ended up actually coloring her nose instead of copying her face. So I realized that halfway through making it, so I started recording. So there's that. So I decided red would be a nice secondary color for her, hence why I gave her red hair. I'm also going to give her red lips, because a whole doll of straight yellow is gonna kind of be an eyesore, and you need something to kind of draw your eye away from the flat color. You need like a secondary color to kind of pull you in, so I decided red would be a nice color. Now for the edges of her lip to add dimension, I'm using a dark plum color. It is at least in a close color family to the red, so it doesn't stand out, but it adds some dimension to make her kind of look sad. Now, if you do mess up, the really nice thing about being painted one flat color is you can actually just paint to cover up your mistakes. And once her eye is copied, we are going to move on to the color. To start with, I am using just my black pencil to fill in her eyebrow, her eyeliner, and her pupil. I do want to apologize if you hear any construction noises in the background. We actually currently have somebody in the house doing our air conditioner because it broke a while ago. So you might hear that, and I do apologize. Now, since she is a clown, I decided really thick, bold eyeliner would look the best. I didn't want to add lashes to her too much because it just kind of ruins the aesthetic of all the other dolls I do, because I'm just not a fan of drawing eyelashes. Don't know why. So I just went with really thick eyeliner to give the illusion. So this clown actually does have brown eyes, so I gave her lovely brown eyes to match hers. And then I'm moving on to the makeup. Since she is a clown, I'm not doing any chalk pastels to blush. I'm just using flat colors because that's kind of the whole MO of clowns. They're just flat colors. They're not blushed or blended. And I actually really like that. It's actually really fun to do too. So I am using 3 different shades of yellow here. The lightest one is the triangle on top, and then the eyeshadow is 2. Once we are done, we're going to spray her down with Mr. Super Clear, and we're going to move on to acrylic paints. Now for acrylic paints, I use Folk Art matte acrylic paints because they blend really nicely on the face. Now I'm not actually blending her face, so that isn't very useful in this case, but they do dry a very nice flat matte, which is really nice because then the face isn't shiny awkwardly in places. Now, I did have to go over almost all the colors because the white stopped taking the pigment in a way I wanted it to, so I had to paint it instead of draw it in. Now, once we have blocked in all of the yellows on her face, it's time to add some details. I added some white eye shines to kind of make her eyes pop. And then every good clown needs a sparkle glitter nose. So I'm adding that with some glossy varnish mixed with some glitter. And this is how her face turned out. I think it's super cute and it looks a lot like her. And y'all, I was shook because she actually showed up to our photo shoot with the exact face that I'd painted on this doll. So the next steps are we are going to attach her back, and this doll is complete. Now we just need some light styling of her hair, and we can move on to final shots. Now, I didn't actually film putting her hair back together because I did it off camera and I had to actually clean out the white paint from her hairline, but this is what she ended up looking like. And oh my god, this is the best photo shoot I've ever had for a doll. I had reached out to Queery to see if I could take a picture with her with the doll, and she went all out. She found the exact outfit, she did her wig the same way, she did her makeup, and honestly, I think this is my favorite doll that I've ever made because it's just so cute. All the photos, I just love them so much. I actually ended up making one of them my background on my phone so I can look at it forever. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please check out my fellow collaborators. All of their channels will be linked below, and I will see you next time.